morning, students. Welcome to Jadavpur University. I am Shuparna Kaur from Department of Electrical Engineering, and at present the presiding officer of ICC or Internal Complaints Committee of Jadavpur University. I will just speak a few words about Internal Complaints Committee, what are their requirements. So, now, Internal Complaints Committee or Internal Committee is a mandatory requirement for any organization. These has to be formed as per the law of India, as per the law, as per the 2013 Act. It is called the Sexual Harassment of Women at Workplace Prevention, Prohibition and Redressal Act 2013. Now, for the educational institutions, we have an additional regulations which was circulated by University Grants Commission on 2015. It is called the University Grants Commission Prevention, Prohibition and Redressal of Sexual Harassment of Women Employees and Students in Higher Education Institutions. Now, why for higher education institutes we require some regulation PUC? We will look into the fact. Now, first is that when was the Sexual Harassment of Women at Workplace Prevention, Prohibition and Redressal Act passed? It was passed in 2013, in 22nd April 2013 precisely, and the rules were passed on 9 December 2013. Now, actually, it was a long time demand for women's organizations, because when the number of female participants in different organizations started increasing for over the last few decades, then there were several types of harassment or discriminations the female employees faced, which was not really covered by the existing laws. So this was a demand from the different women's organizations. However, that 2012 Nirbhaya case in Delhi gives a push, and it was passed in April 2013. The objective of the Act is to provide protection against sexual harassment of women at workplace, prevention of harassment, and redressal of complaints of sexual harassment. Now, first, as I should define what is sexual harassment. Now, as per this Act and the UGC regulation, sexual harassment is not only physical, it can be verbal also. So, as per the law, it is defined as any unwelcome physical, verbal, or non-verbal conduct of sexual nature, demand or request of sexual flavor, making sexually colored remarks, physical contacts and advances, or showing pornography. And this is elaborated like this, that any of these conditions I am talking about amounts to sexual harassment. So these are, as per the law, 2013 Act, implied or explicit promise of preferential treatment for sexual favors. That is, in case of any organization for if if any promotion or increment, it is related to sexual favor, then it comes under this act. Similarly, for educational institution, if your result or marks is related to these sexual favors, then it also comes under this act. Then comes the implied or explicit threat of detrimental treatment. That is, no one can may make any demand for sexual favors by just threatening that they will do some harm to someone. Implied or explicit threat about the present or future status of the person concerned, then creating an intimidating, offensive, or hostile learning environment. That this is actually addition in the from the in the UGC regulation. This is not in the this creating that intimidating, offensive, hostile learning environment. Then humiliating treatment likely to affect the health, safety, and dignity or physical integrity of a person. So you can see that in this case, none of these cases, any physical harm is really always necessary. It can be mental also. Now, in the view of the university, who can be the complainant? A complainant can be a student, a research scholar, a female employee, temporary or permanent, of the HEI, that is higher education institution. Now, actually, why this UGC regulation was necessary? That is, in the 2013 act, it covers the female employees, temporary or permanent, of any institution. Now, when we comes to higher education institution, we have three stakeholders, that is the students and research scholars, then the faculty members, and the non-teaching employee. Now, the faculty member and the non-teaching employee are employee of the university, so they are covered by 2013 Act. But what about the student and research scholars? Now, actually, students are there in the school also, but in the school, the students are minor, so they are protected by some other law. That is the Protection of Children from Sexual Offences Act 2012. So, but the students and research scholars in an university or a college are all adult persons, but they are not employee of the institution. So, they are not directly covered by the 2013 Act. So, to incorporate them inside the protection which is provided by this Act, UGC has to supplemented by the 2015 regulation. Now again, say the second is what is the workplace, because it is this both the 2013 Act and the 2015 UGC regulation basically addresses sexual harassment in the workplace. Now, so workplace has to be defined in terms of the HEI. So, workplace is defined for any higher education institution as any department, organization, undertaking, establishment, enterprise, institution, office, branch, or unit which is established, owned, controlled, or wholly or substantially financed by funding provided directly or indirectly by the HEI. Then comes any sports institute, stadium, sports complex, or competition or games venue, whether residential or not, used for training, sports, or other activities relating thereof in HEI. That is, any gymnasiums which is within the campus or is hired by the institution also comes into the purview of this law. Any place visited by the employee or student arising out of or during the course of employment or study, including transportation provided by the executive authority for undertaking such journey. That is, say, if students go for some educational visits, which is organized by the institute, and some incidents happens there, then also it is taken up by the ICC. Now, why that workplace has to be defined? Because ICC is basically a quasi-judicial body, and the members of ICC has a power equivalent to any jury. So, some legal power is given to the ICC, whose members are all civilians. So some the why the jurisdictions of ICC should be properly defined. So workplace has to be defined, and beyond this workplace, ICC cannot address the any complaint, because if something happens beyond the jurisdiction, then it comes under the purview of the police department of the state. So this workplace has to be defined properly, because ICC is a quasi judicial body. Now, next come, what is the rights of the complainant? The rights are a fair and time bound inquiry for the committee. That is, inquiry has to be time bound. As per the law, once the complaint is lodged with the ICC, the report should come within 90 working days. That is a time bound thing, so it cannot go on indefinitely. Then the complainant receives a copy of the statement and list of witnesses submitted by respondent. The whole process is time bound and kept confidential. No graphic details of the detailing of the reported incident is insisted upon. Assistance if the student's research scholar female employee wants to file a complaint with the police. That is, in case it is too too serious to be handled by the internal committee, then the police has to be informed. In that case, the university and ICC is should help them to record the complaint with the police. Assurance that the victim are not discriminated against and their safety is protected during and after the ongoing investigation. And first, and another thing is important is the confidential, that in the report none of the names of the complainant or the respondents is to be disclosed to the media or anyone else. Then comes how to file a complaint. Now, obviously, as I told, that ICC is a quasi-judicial body, and its jurisdiction is quite strictly defined in the law. So also the how to file a complaint, because the complaints has to be filed within a certain time period. So it is defined in the law that once an incident occurs, or if there is a series of incident, the complaints has to be lodged with ICC within 90 days from the last date of incident. So what descriptions they have to give, as I told earlier, that no graphic details of the incident has to be given. So what details has to be given? The name and the affiliation of the complainant, short description of the incident, then dates, timings, name and affiliation of the respondent, relation with the respondent, if any. These are the minimum description which has to be given in the complainant. And then when to file a complaint, as I told, that survivor is required to file a complaint to the ICC within 90 days of the said incident, and in case of a series of incidents, within 90 days after the last incident. In case a complainant is not fit enough to lodge a complaint, friends, relatives, colleagues, co-students, psychologist, or any other associate of the victim may file a complaint in situation where the aggrieved person is unable to make a complaint on account of physical or mental incapacity or death. If required, friends or any other associates are allowed to make complaints on the behalf of the survivor. Then comes what is the investigation process like. The investigation process differs depending on the complainant's desired outcome and the complexity of the allegation. The investigation consists of interview with the complainant, respondent, witnesses, and review of documents provided by those involved in the investigation. Interim remedies or measures may be provided as necessary to both complainant and the respondent. At the end of the investigation, ICC reviews the information collected, determines whether the information provided is enough to support a finding that the policy has to be violated. Finally, ICC recommends its report to the Higher Education Authority. And this report has to be submitted within 90 working days from the date of complaint being filed. Now, ICC makes recommendation to the higher educational institution, and as per the the statute of the institution, the the educational institution takes action. At present, we have the university have a ICC. Now the constitution of the body is also well defined in the UGC regulation. As per the regulation, the PO or the presiding officer should be a professor from any of the departments. Besides the PO, there should be 2 faculty members, 2 officers, and then member from any external organization, NGO, from an NGO. This external member is presence of the external member is must for any ICC meeting. So at present, this is the constitution of universities, Jadavpur University ICC. PO is Suparna Kaur Choudhury from Department of Electrical Engineering. Then we have Dr. Piyali Shur from Department of Sociology, Dr. Nandita Dhawan from School of Women Studies. Then we have Debarati Sina Choudhury, Publication Officer, and Anindita Banerjee Tamta, which is the external member. ICC has the email icc@jadavpuruniversity.in. So complaints can be lodged by sending an email to ICC or submitting a written complaint to the PO or in the VC's office, which is forwarded to the PO. Now, so actually, you may wonder why I am talking about this, because you have come from a school which is you are coming from schools. So schools have a protected atmosphere into an university which is much more open. So you will get much more freedom, and freedom also comes with some duties. So I will request you to enjoy the freedom which university campus gives you, but be careful about your duty towards the safety of yourself and duty to the society. And I hope that in the next 4 years, when you are staying in the camp, you are studying in the university, there will be no need from your from you to visit ICC for some redressal. And again, I am welcoming you to the family of Jadavpur University. Thank you for hearing.